Okay, this week we are going to focus on I can represent proportional relationships by writing equations. This is a culmination of things that we've been doing since the beginning of school. We're going to be talking about unit rates. We're going to now call those constants of proportionality. We're going to be talking about graphs and tables and whether or not they show proportionality. And if they do show proportionality, what would be an equation that we could use that would represent that table or graph. So this lesson some students may struggle with, but it's important to note if you do struggle with it, one, you need to be in our Google Meets every day. Second is you need to reach out to Ms. Banks or myself so that we can help you. We are getting very close to the part of the unit where we are starting to add more complex situations and problems, so we need to make sure that we understand this portion of the content. All right. So when we talk about the constant of proportionality, we talked about k is equal to y over x. And you really need to understand that this value k is your constant. Now, in the first couple of lessons, we called k our unit rate, okay? And the unit rate is what we checked to see if a table show proportionality or if two ratios are equivalent to one another. This is the new part. This is the way that your equation is written. Y is equal to kx, where the value of y is equal to your unit rate times your x value. So as we do this, understand that this part of the equation is nothing more than a multiplication problem, okay? And in 6th grade, you should have talked about one-step equations. With one-step equations, remember that the two sides are equal to one another. Do not forget the meaning of this symbol in mathematics. In mathematics, this means that the value of y is equal to the value of your constant multiplied by the value of x. Okay? Now with this one, dealing with our constant of proportionality, which I had you write down on a sheet of paper, what we did is we simply manipulated this equation to get here. Okay? We're going to still need this to calculate our unit rate and our constant, but this is going to be what we write our equation. This is the value. What I would want you to do is pause the video, and I want you to write down this slide, okay? And I really just care about this equation and this equation. All right, now that you have these written down, put them somewhere that you're going to see them throughout this lesson so that we can constantly go back and look at these, because this is something that you are going to have to know. All right? All right. Now, when you were in 6th grade and you were talking about the Cartesian plane and graphing on that, what you may have forgotten is the value of x is your independent variable and y is your dependent variable. This means that a change in x will affect y, okay? And as we go through this, we're going to talk about independent and dependent variables and why they change one another. I've given some examples. The more hours you work, the more money you will earn or make. So somebody that works 3 days a week at a factory will make less money than somebody that works 5 days at a factory if they both work the same number of hours each day and they make the same amount of money each hour. The more you purchase at a store, the more your bill is going to be. So if somebody was going and buying, let's say, shirts, if you buy one shirt, it's going to cost less than if you buy two of that same shirt. So what we want you to understand is there are things that's going to affect or change the outcome, and what that change is related to X, and the outcome is going to be the Y. Again, your equation, your Y value is equal to your unit rate or your constant multiplied by X. Do not forget what this symbol means. It means equal. The value of Y is equal to the value of your constant multiplied by your X. Now let's put this in context. Here we have you are buying tomatoes for a cost of £2 for $3.98. Now, as Ms. Banks and I have both pointed out, is you need to think about cubes. Cubes is something that you should have used in 6th grade, but if you didn't, I'm going to circle the number and the unit. So £2, $3.98. Okay, so 2 pounds of tomatoes for $3.98. It says write an equation to represent the proportional relationship. So the first step that you have to do is you have to determine your unit rate. Okay, that's step one. It may not ask you for step one. It may jump straight to write an equation. But understand the first thing you have to do is write or determine your constant. So our constant is Y divided by X. Okay, so that's going to be Y, $3.98, X, which is 2. I know that because Y depends on X. So the amount they're charging me depends on how many pounds of tomatoes I buy. So I have $3.98 divided by 2. So $3.98 divided by 2, that's going to give me your unit rate or your constant, and you have $1.99. Now let's stop here for a second. At this point in the course, you have got to be able to tell us this means $1.99 per pound of tomatoes, or for 1 pound of tomatoes, it's $1.99. You've got to be able to say that. If you don't, or you don't understand what that means, you need to contact Ms. Banks or myself so that we can help you, or you need to be in our Google Meets every day. So we have $1.99 per pound. Sorry. $1.99 per pound. Okay. Now let's think of the equation. The equation that I had you write down was Y equals KX. Now we know that K is equal to $1.99. So I have K in my equation. So in place of K, I'm going to put $1.99. Y equals $1.99X. And that's my equation. Okay? Now, if this wasn't hard enough, many questions will give you different variables to use. So instead of Y and X, this question wanted you to use C and P. So remember, Y is your cost. So the cost is equal to $1.99 times, instead of X, it is the pounds of tomatoes that you have, okay? This is difficult for students, and I understand why it's difficult for you. So right now, for this slide, if you're okay at this point, I'm fine with it. So if you understand how we got the equation, perfect, you're right where you need to be. But we're going to build on this throughout this lesson. At the candy store, you purchase 5 pounds for $22.45. Write an equation to represent the proportional relationship. Guys, understand, this first part is not going to be there for you on your learning check and your check for understanding. We're putting this first part here to help you understand that's what you should do. That's how you think about these types of questions. So unit rate. Unit rate, you should think of constant of proportionality. Our equation for constant of proportionality is K equals Y divided by X. Okay? Now, let's go back. Independent versus dependent. So, Y is dependent. The price is dependent on the amount of pounds you buy. So we know that the value of Y is $22.45. So $22.45 divided by 5. Okay, so here we have set up our rate. Now we want to calculate the unit rate. To do that, we divide both by 5. Okay, you all know this at this point. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then $22.45 divided by 5 is $4.49. What does that even mean? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, so hopefully everybody's told me, well, Mr. Norton, $4.49 over 1 means it's $4.49 for 1 pound of candy, or $4.49 per pound of candy. So we've got the value of K, all right? Now, at the beginning of the lesson, I had you write down the equation, Y equals KX. So now we need to substitute the value of K into our equation. So Y equals $4.49 times X. Now, if you made it to this point, great, you're on track to meeting the standard, but we're not quite there. You need to understand that the value of Y is cost, so they're going to give you the value of your variable, which is C. C is equal to, your K is your constant. Remember, it's staying the same. X, it tells you that it's P. Now guys, if they don't give you specific variables to use, you can always use Y and X, okay? And if it's a multiple choice question, you may want to go ahead and solve it just using your Y and X, and then look at the options as to which one looks similar to the one you have and choose the one that's similar. But do think about it. Think about, well, which one is dependent and which one is independent. Okay, so let's look at this. Here we have a table, but we've done tables before. That's no big deal. It says write an equation to represent the proportional relationship. We know the table is proportional, therefore we know that we don't have to test every single one of these rates. We just need to determine the constant. And I've already determined that for you here. K is equal to M over G. Well, M and G. We have X and we have Y. And then for M is our Y value. G is our X value, which is 10. So we have 247 divided by 10, which gives me 24.7. Pause the video and tell me, what does this mean? Okay, so hopefully you're able to tell me that it's 24 7/10 miles per gallon, or miles per 1 gallon of gas. Okay, that's what it means. That's the meaning of this. Now, I had you write down y equals kx. We've got the value of k. The value of k is 24.7. So we have y equals 24 7/10. Okay? Now, we're not done, because it told us in our problem, let G equal gallons, M equal miles. Well, the value of Y is here for M, which is miles. Miles is Y. So I know this needs to be M is equal to 24.7. X is gallons. It's G. So that is the correct way of writing it, according to the context of the problem. There's nothing wrong with this. However, this is the better answer. Okay. For this one, write an equation that represents the proportional relationship. The total cost C of grapes for $1.40 per pound. Okay? The total cost C for grapes is $1.40 per pound. Now think about that for a second. We know that our constant is equal to y over x. You should know that by now. Also, you should know that money goes in your numerator, okay? That's your dependent variable, because how much money you spend depends on how much you buy. Per pound, meaning 1 pound. Well, when we already have a 1 here, there's nothing really to divide. So the problem gave you your constant of proportionality, okay, which is $1.40. Think about this, pause the video, and answer the question. Okay, hopefully you were able to say, well, y equals kx, okay? Hopefully you were able to say that y is equal to $1. Here they've written 1.4, which is the same thing. Now we're talking about money, so I'm going to put a 0 here. X. You should be able to get here. Now the difficult part is from making it from here to here for some of you, and I understand that. So what you needed to do is you need to look at this and say, well, $1.40 is money, and money went on top. That's the value of Y, and it told us the cost C. So Y has to be C. So I know that C is equal to, and once you have C figured out, P kind of just has to be the value of X. So now let's go ahead and look at our second question, which is write an equation that represents the proportional relationship. So again, the table is proportional, so we don't have to check proportionality. Now I want us to go ahead and think about K is equal to Y divided by x. Remember, this is x, this is y. Pause the video, calculate k. Okay, so you should have said $57.50 divided by 5. $57.50 divided by 5 gives me $11.50 over 1. So the constant is $11.50 per shirt. Okay? Now, next is we have y equals kx. Pause the video, write the equation. Which one do you think it is? All right. Next, you needed to go ahead and substitute the value of k in for k. So y equals 1150x. All right. The difficult part is making it from here to here. So what we need to do is we need to look at y. Y is c. That's the cost. So I know that c is equal to 1150s, which is b. All right, number 3. Number 3 is one like we haven't seen before, so we're going to do a little bit more of this together. The first thing you have to do is determine the constant. After, I guess the first thing you should do is look and see if the graph determines proportionality. The graph does show proportionality, and there's 2 reasons for that. The 2 reasons is, first, it's a straight line that passes through the origin. Next, I'm going to choose a point. Remember, you want to choose a point that passes right through the corner of one of these boxes. So this coordinate pair is 3, 1. Remember, this is the x value. That's the y value. I think Ms. Banks uses the analogy you have to walk to the elevator before you can take it up. Ordered pair, remember, x comes before y, just like the alphabet. Then you have to think, well, what was the equation? Hopefully you've got these written down. There's a purpose that I had you write these down. K is equal to y over x. Pause the video and tell me the constant of proportionality. Okay, from here, you needed to look at your point. You needed to identify the value of y, which is 1, the value of x, which is 3. So your constant of proportionality is 1/3. Next, you need to look at y equals kx and choose which one of these is the value or the equation that fits this proportional relationship. Okay, what you need to do, take the value of k, substitute in for k. So we have y equals 1/3 x. All right, and that corresponds with A. Number 4. Number 4 says write an equation that represents the proportional relationship. You are ordering new menus for your restaurant. You pay $362.50 for 50 menus. So we're not going to jump straight to the equation. Remember, the first step is to calculate your constant. Your constant, k equals y over x. Pause the video, calculate the constant. All right, you should have said $362.50 divided by 50 menus. Okay, so you got $362.50 divided by 50 menus. That gives you $7.25. What does that mean? $7.25. Hopefully you're able to tell me. $7.25 per menu. Alright. Next, we have our constant y is equal to kx. We're going to take the value of k, substitute it into our equation. So y equals $7.25 x. But then, which one of these does it correspond to? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, y is money, so we're talking about the cost. So cost is equal to 7 1/4. X is the menus, so it's M. Last one. Write an equation that represents the proportional relationship. For this one, I want you to go ahead and determine the constant of proportionality. For the constant, you needed to know k is equal to y over x. Alright, you have x and y. So you have the first value of y is 17, and then days is 2. You need to divide these two. So 17 divided by 2 is 8 1/2. Now, of course, I don't write it over 1. You would have 8 1/2, y is hours, so 8 1/2 hours in one day. So you maybe worked 8 1/2 hours in one day. Okay, pause the video and determine which equation is correct. So once we made it to this point, you really only have two options, right? So you need y equals kx. The value of k is 8 1/2, so y equals 8 5/10 x. Y is hours, so hours is equal to 8 1/2. X is days, which is D, so the correct answer is D. Alright, so what we have is a lot of supporting skills in order for you to show mastery of this learning target. There are a lot of skills that we've talked about already, such as identifying your constant of proportionality and unit rates, X and Y. What is new this lesson is independent versus dependent. That may be something you may have forgotten since 6th grade, but remember, your dependent variable will always depend on your independent variable. Second is a lot of students can make it to this point. Alright, they can make it to y equals kx. They struggle when they change these letters. But do what I've done when we're talking about getting hit here. Well, go back to your constant. What did you put in place of y? Well, in this place it's 17. Well, 17 is hours. So y has to deal with hours. So come down here, and wherever y is, put the hours. Same thing here with x. What did we put for x? 2. Well, 2 is days. So we know instead of x, we need the variable 2. This will come with time. However, if you're still struggling, never hesitate to reach out to Ms. Banks or myself. Always remember we have Google Meets on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 9 to 10. If you have a question, always stay on Google Meets and we answer those individually. Call us or email us and we'll help you in any way that we can possibly can. Guys, have a good day and have a good week. If I can help you, let me know.